This is Mrs. Kidman, and in this video, we are going to cover how we can apply a problem or when we might see in real life why we would want to factor a polynomial. So let's take this problem here, for example. So a farmer plants a rectangular pumpkin patch in the northeast corner of a square plot of land. The area of the pumpkin patch, so here's our little pumpkin patch here, the area of this is 600 square meters. And they want us to figure out what is the area of the plot of land. So the whole thing here is what we want to figure out. That whole thing agreed. So we want to figure out what is the rest of the land plus what is all of the land that doesn't include the pumpkin patch and the land that is the pumpkin patch. So what we want to do is we know what the area is of that pumpkin patch, right? I need to figure out what this S is. What is that dimension for the square of our plot of land here? And so how I'm going to do that is I have measured, or it has been measured, that from the end of the pumpkin patch to the end of the property is 30 meters on the east side, and it's going to be 40 meters on the north side. Now, what I want to know is what are the dimensions of my pumpkin patch? And I can figure this out pretty easily. If the whole plot of land, so from the pumpkin patch all the way until the end of the property is S, and the plot of land until we hit the pumpkin patch is 30, this area left here is going to be S minus 30. And that makes sense because S minus 30 plus 30 would just be S. Similarly, over here is going to be S minus 40 because this whole length here is also S. So now that we have that, we want to use that idea to figure out what S equals, or what is the length of that square plot of land. And we can do that using this area that we know. So remember, area is length times width when we're talking about the area of a rectangle. So the length of my rectangle is going to be S minus 30 times the width of my rectangle, which is S minus 40, is going to equal the area of that whole square plot, which was 600 square meters. So then what I want to do is use this to solve for S. First, I need to expand out this polynomial, and I want to move that 600 square meters in. So I'm going to expand my polynomial using my FOIL method here. And as I do that, I get S squared minus 40S minus 30S plus 1200. And that's going to equal 600 square meters, right? Then I want to solve this. And when I solve these, that means I want 0 on this other side. So I'm going to subtract 600 here, subtract 600 because whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And I'm going to end up getting S squared minus 40S minus 30S is negative 70S plus 600 because that's what 1200 minus 600 is. So plus that 600 will give us what we need. So here we have plus 600 equals 0. So we have that plus 600 equals 0. Now I want to figure out what just S is. So the way that I solve or figure out what S is when I have a trinomial is I need to factor using our X method. So I'm going to multiply two numbers to get 600. I'm going to add two numbers to get negative 70. Now 600 has a lot of factors, so I'm just going to list some of them, but be aware that there are more than just this. So 600, some of the numbers I can multiply are like 1 and 600, 2 and 300. We can multiply 3 and 100. I can multiply 6 times 100. I could multiply 10 times 60. I could multiply 20 times 30. But also remember, in addition to those numbers, those are all the positive factors. I also have the negative ones. So negative 1 and negative 600, negative 2 and negative 300, and there are more here. Negative 3, negative 100, negative 6, negative 3, negative 200, sorry. Negative 6, negative 100, negative 10 and negative 60, negative 20 and negative 30. All of these things here will multiply to get 600. Now I only want the pair that adds to get negative 70, and that's going to be this pair right here, the negative 10 and the negative 60. So in my x, I have a negative 10 here and a negative 60. Now I want to write this out in that factored form because I know how to solve polynomial equations when they're in factored form. And so as I do that, so as I'm looking at doing that here, I can expand it out into factored form and get s minus 10 times s minus 60 equals 0. Now remember, we talked about how we can solve these polynomial equations in factored form. All we have to do is take each piece and set it equal to 0. So I have s minus 10 equals 0 and s minus 60 equals 0. Now with my two parts here, I'm going to solve, and that means that s can either equal 10 meters or s equals 60 meters. Now we need to ask ourselves which one makes the most sense. Is it possible for this whole length to be 10 meters if I can take 30 out of it? Of course not. I'm not going to have negative meters. Distance is always positive. So s has to be 60. Therefore, if I want to find the area of that square plot of land, what I have to do is do the length times the width, or 60 times 60, and the area of that is going to be 3,600 square meters.